hands up high, tell them dim the lights down right now, put me in the mood. I'm talking about dark room perfume. Go, go.
I recognize your fragrance. Hold up, you ain't never gotta say shit. And I know your taste is a little bit high maintenance. Everybody else basic. You live life on an everyday basis with poetic justice. Poetic justice. I told you that a flower bloom in the dark room. What you trusted,
Oh my goodness. It's me. Right now I'm using two acrylics. I have Nailed by John Basic Bitch Nude, which is this one, Nailed by John number 38. I feel like I have to mix because I know I don't have enough of one, so I might as well just mix them all. That way I can get this set done for sure. And then I'm just going to just shake it up like that and then use this for this set. I have already applied my tips. The only thing I do notice already is that this finger is a little shorter than I would want it to be. So during my acrylic process, I will be lengthening that one out just because I cut it like way too short. And I could tell that one is going to be a sore thumb. Everybody is prepped and good to go. The monomer I'm using is the Not Polished monomer from Not Polished. Primer I'm going to slap on is the Mia Secret Extra Bond, the one that I always literally use. And this video is going to be about the application process, applying the acrylic close to the cuticle. So essentially how you should be laying that cuticle bead when it comes to any acrylic application, because that cuticle bead is going to be the one that sets the tone for how how your retention and how your set looks flush at the cuticle. Please keep in mind, I know I'm doing my own hand. I don't have a glove on this hand. When I'm working on somebody else, I have a glove, I have a mask on, and I have on eyewear protection. Vapors from the monomer mixing with the acrylic, harmful to your eyes. Skin-on-skin contact with the monomer can give you contact dermatitis. Along with other things, the nail glue, you're working with the drill, the e-file. So just keep that in mind at times. You need to always be wearing gloves as a nail tech, eyewear protection, and a mask. I'm using the Spade brush in a size 16. And let's just get right into this application. I'm going to do the thumb first just so I can show y'all like really clearly. My first bead is never automatically at the cuticle. It's just never at the cuticle because I like to build my apex, but I like to build the foundation first and then work down in this area. So when I dip in, I grab my first bead. It's always going to be a little bit below where the tip meets the natural nail. Turning my bead over, you can see it's going to start to crystallize, and that's what I'm going to be waiting for. You see how it's smooth now, but it's still really runny. I'm going to wait just a little bit longer. That way I can work with a relatively dry bead when I place. I'm wiping my brush off. I'm pointing my finger downward. Patting my sides, keeping my sides up. You see how that acrylic is starting to stick to my brush? That means my brush has no more monomer. So I'm dipping my brush in, going back, and shaping this into place. Moving it downward, patting. I don't want to just go in and start doing this. It's pointless to do that. You want to build, you don't want to wipe away. Wet my brush because I see my product is starting to dry up. And I'm happy with that application there. Going back in, Not with the big size bead. I don't need nothing big. About this size. Almost half the size of my first bead that I picked up. I'm waiting. You can still see, it looks like little crumbs will be in the acrylic. You want it to look pretty smooth. Placing it not where I need it, because I need to fill in this spot. I'm not going to put it there because I have nowhere to pat it and run it down to. So I'm going to place it about here. Make sure it's sidewall to sidewall. And the first thing I want to do is blend it into what I already placed down. That way, when I turn over, I'm able just to work it down to the free edge how I need it. It's still not quite enough acrylic, so I'm going to go in with another bead. I wetted a little bit too much, so I'm going to give it some time to set before I start trying to manipulate it. It's sticking to my brush, so I'm wetting my brush, patting it where I want it, and just waiting. Wiping any acrylic I see that comes off onto my brush, I'm wiping that off. I don't need that. Just like that. Now I have a foundation. You can tell when I turn it like this, it's super flat. It has no structure to it at all. It's still a little wet, so when I turned it over, it actually messed up. So the next bead to build an apex, when you see here, I'm not going to go and put it here. I'm going to put it almost right on top where I already put it. And I can see I didn't go sidewall to sidewall, so I have a small gap right here and a kind of a small one over here too, but still very fixable. Patting it at the sidewall, keeping it out of my cuticle, blending it out, and that's all I want to do. I do not want it to go anywhere else besides where I just placed it. Just like that. This here is fixable. I don't want to take that acrylic and move it down to this area because I want this acrylic to stay at the cuticle. Now you start to see the apex you need for a strong foundation. Going back in. A small bead. My beads get smaller and smaller as I get closer to my cuticle. This one is going to get pushed back. Pushed back. Pushed into the sidewall. Pushed back. Wet my brush because I see my product is not moving. Pushed into the sidewall. And fanned out. Like so. That would have been my cuticle bead. I'm going to go and fix this area because I do see it is very wonky. So go in like so. And this one I'm going to fan out all the way because I don't want it to just bulk up. I do need a little bit of acrylic right here. Taking a small bead, not putting it exactly on top of the spot where I need it to be, because I'm going to push it back in there like that. I'm still missing a spot right here, which is no problem. You're going to take a small bead, place it on top, take the side of my brush and pack it in. Just like that, and fan out the top, fan out the bottom. That's easy, and you just leave it alone. I do want to get a little closer to my cuticle because I do see that space, so I'm not sure if y'all can like see, but I'm gonna get just a little closer, and this is just me being nitpicky on my work. And like, you see how small that bead is? And you see I'm not putting it exactly on top of where it needs to go, because that is only going to create flooding and a problem with your retention. You place it on top and you try to edge it back in there in the spot you need it to be in. Just like that. And that is how I would place everybody. I do see a little bit of unevenness in this corner as opposed to how round it looks here. It looks like it got sliced right here. So just to perfect my work, because you will see these imperfections once you start to polish. So if you can catch them now, it's even better. Putting a little bit of product, cleaning up, just like that. And it's still a little lumpy, so hold on. There we go. And that's that. My free edge is a little thin, and I'm going to fix that because, again, this part comes down to how you like your acrylic sets to look. Everybody does different types of work. Everybody likes different types of work, so you just have to kind of find what it is you're looking for. If you like that super thin free edge that has a deep C curve and has hardly any acrylic, totally up to you. That's your prerogative. So you would apply your acrylic a bit differently than I would. But that is how I would apply that. So I'm going to show y'all how I would file this to look really smooth and even. Cleaning off my brush, I am going to sit it down for a little bit. I'm just going to cover this up. Alright, the acrylic is dry. I'm going to go in first underneath with my file and make my straight line. And same thing with the other side. And then do my free edge. Like so. Before I touch my apex, I'm going in and working from almost like this half down, keeping my file flat and only working on the top portion. Going around to the sides, keeping my file not like this, but up and down. You see how when you work like this, how you make a line? I want to keep my file straight. Same thing with the other side. So now you can see where I haven't filed is right here and right here. So I'm going to take a motion kind of like this and file that out. So for me, all that's left is to clean up underneath my free edge. And I like to do that, but just by making it more moon-shaped and round. Oops, speed bump. Just like that. I don't know why my acrylic, well, I know it's cold outside, so my acrylic is taking a lot longer to cure and set. But I'm going to come back once I've filed this completely and got it all nice and smooth. I've done all the nails, but this one is for sure cured by now. So I'm going to shape it out and show y'all just the end result of what I would consider to be finished with an acrylic application for the cuticle. You can go in for your cuticle with several different types of drill bits. It's whatever you know how to use, but they're all just as effective if you use the same exact technique as far as sealing that cuticle. I do have a video on my page about showing you like the proper bits. This is all I have that's like sterile right now, so this is what I'm using. Going back in again for that free edge to clean and crispen that up so it looks nice and thinned out. And just taking this drill bit, because it is my smoothing sand band, and just going around and getting any imperfections I might, see? I'm going back around that cuticle, making sure it's nice and like edged up, I guess you could call it. Not edged up, but like sealed. Taking some cuticle oil and a buff to buff this out. Be careful with your buff. This thing can change your shape entirely if you use it way too much. And your shape will look a little bit different and you'll be wondering why. It's because you're using your buff too rough, not just to smooth out the acrylic. And that's what we're left with as far as applying your cuticle bead. You can see my apex is there. I have a thin free edge. And this is my end result for my cuticle application. You can see how flush and how close it is to the cuticle. It's not flooding and it's going to have good retention as far as keeping the apex